Then nationally, one thing that is making a lot of news nowadays is the simultaneous elections, which we call as Jubilee elections, where the state and the center go to polls at the same time. In fact, that's the way the election process in India has started in 1951 and continued to 56 and 62. After 62, slowly, as far as the states are concerned, a lot of instability came. Till 62, almost all for a decade, it was Congress rule everywhere. There was a lot of stability. 5 years, the chief ministers were not changed, or even in case they were changed within the same party, somebody else has taken over, but there was no dissolution of the assembly or the parliament. So things went on well. But after 62, in a number of states, coalition governments came, and after 67, they became more. Actually, after 67, it became a much bigger issue. These coalition governments were unstable, could not continue the full 5-year term, so midterm elections came. So that particular syncrotic elections that were there earlier got a break. So we are having different elections to states at a different time and to the Lok Sabha at a different time. A much bigger issue has come somewhere in 70 when Mrs. Gandhi suddenly dissolved the parliament and went for midterm elections. So the parliamentary elections totally got cut off from the state elections. And in the process, what we now have is each year we have a major election going on somewhere or the other. And this is not good for the country. And it's always better to have simultaneous elections in the larger interests of the country for two reasons. I would put these two reasons as the most important one to go in for simultaneous elections. Some people keep saying about cost. Cost I don't think is a major issue. I mean, if cost is the only issue, you can forget and go ahead with these elections as they are scheduled and have an election each year, because after all, in terms of a economy of India's size, the cost of conducting elections hardly matter. But there are two other important reasons why we need to have simultaneous elections. Point is, a 5-year full political stability for political leadership to implement their policies on a long-term basis, keeping the long-term interests of the nation at heart, is very, very essential. What happens when you have elections each year? You can't take a long-term view of issues. You are forced to take populist view of the programs and issues. That may be temporarily give some benefit to people, but in the long run, that negatively impacts the growth and stability of the Indian economy. If you don't want this to happen, if you want the political leadership to take a long-term view of the state finances or the central finances and plan for projects, then simultaneous elections are essential. Then the second most important point is the quality time of the chief executive. The Prime Minister is the chief executive of the country. Chief Minister is the chief executive of the state. They are very, very busy. Their time matters, and they need to give quality time for planning, implementing programs for the good of the state, for the good of the country. But when you have elections every year, substantial portion of the time of the Prime Minister is taken away in electioneering. After all, he is a party man and his party has to win. And if the party has to win, he has to go for campaigning, and that is going to be strenuous, and that will put lot of decisions on the back burner because he is not available for taking the decisions in the interest of the country. If that quality time of the chief executive should be available for taking decisions for the progress of the country, for the betterment of the economy, you need to have simultaneous elections so that he is free for the 5 years after being elected to plan and do the work that is required to be done, rather than keep going around electioneering across the state. So on these two counts, I consider simultaneous elections is a very, very important thing as far as India is concerned. Let's hope Ramnath Kovind panel will give some useful recommendations. If this can be done without a constitutional amendment, nothing like that. If it requires a constitutional amendment also, it needs to be done. But given the political atmosphere today, that constitutional amendment may not be possible now, but as and when that type of a majority is available, this is one of the first items on which the government will have to take a view and work on that. Thank you very much.